The morning sun cast long shadows across the crystal gardens of Zelros. Prime, Commander Veltar stood at the tall window of the Defense Council chamber. Watching his people tend to the glowing plants that powered their city, the Zalani moved. Slowly and carefully, their thin green bodies swaying like leaves in the gentle breeze. Everything about their world spoke of peace and harmony, but peace was about to end. "Commander, they are coming," whispered Scientist Colvin, his voice shaking. "With fear. The Korthak war fleet has entered our star system. Our long-range sensors show 37 ships." Veltar closed his large, dark eyes. The Korthak Empire had been moving through this sector of space for months, conquering world after world. Every planet they took became another source of slaves and resources for their endless war machine. The Zalani had hoped their peaceful nature would protect them. They had been wrong. "How long do we have?" Veltar asked. 3 days, maybe 4, Colvin replied. "Their ships are massive, Commander. Each one is 10 times larger than our biggest." "Vessel." Veltar turned from the window. The other council members sat around the circular table, their normally bright green skin now pale with worry. The Zalani had never fought a war. They had no weapons beyond simple defense shields. Their ships were built for exploration and trade, not battle. "We could surrender," suggested Elder Mortis, his ancient voice barely above a whisper. "Perhaps they will show mercy." "The Korthak do not show mercy," Veltar said firmly. "The reports from the Kelari worlds are clear. They take what they want and destroy the rest. Our people will become slaves or worse." Silence filled the chamber. Outside, the crystal gardens continued to glow, unaware that their light might soon be extinguished forever. "There is one option," Veltar said slowly, "the Deathworld species." The council members looked at each other with fear. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Deathworld species called humans. They came from a planet so dangerous that most civilized beings could not survive there for more than a few minutes. The Galactic Council had marked their world as forbidden, warning all species to avoid contact. "You cannot be serious, Elder," Mortis said. "The humans are monsters. They fight and kill for sport. They eat the flesh of other creatures. They have wars among themselves constantly. They are also the only species that might be able to help us," Veltar replied. "The intelligence reports say they have been expanding into space. They have colonies and military ships." Scientist Colvin pulled up a holographic display. "The data we have on humans is limited, but what we know is terrifying. They come from a world with extreme weather, dangerous animals, and poisonous plants. Their gravity is twice what we can handle. Their atmosphere would burn our lungs. And yet they survived," Veltar pointed out. "They not only survived but thrived. They built cities and technology. They reached the stars. By being violent and savage," Elder Mortis said. "Asking them for help is like inviting death itself into our home." Veltar walked to the center of the chamber. "Death is already coming to our home. The Korthak will be here in days. Our defense fleet cannot stop, even one of their ships. We have 2 choices, fight with the humans or die with dignity." The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for surrender. Others wanted to try diplomatic solutions. A few suggested hiding their population in underground shelters. But Veltar knew none of these options would work. The Korthak were not interested in negotiation or mercy. Finally, the vote was called. By a narrow margin, the council agreed to contact the humans. Veltar went to the communication center deep beneath the city. The room was filled with advanced equipment that could send messages across the galaxy. But sending a message to humans was different from contacting other civilized species. Human space was considered dangerous territory. "Are you sure about this, Commander?" asked Communications Officer Weldan. "Once we send this message, there is no taking it back. If the humans respond, They will know where we are. The Korthek already know where we are, Veltar replied. Send the message to the human colony systems. Use the emergency frequencies. Weldon's thin fingers moved across the control panel. The message would be simple and direct. The Zilani were not skilled in the art of military communication, but they could ask for help. Human leaders, Veltar spoke into the recording device. This is Commander Veltar of the Zilani Defense Council on Zelros Prime. We are a peaceful species facing invasion by the Korthek Empire. We have heard that your people are warriors. We ask for your help. We can offer technology and resources in exchange for military assistance. Please respond if you are willing to help us. The message was sent into space, traveling faster than light toward the human colonies. Now all they could do was wait and hope. 3 hours later, something unexpected happened. The communication system activated on its own. A voice spoke in the human language, which the translation computer quickly converted to Zilani. Zilani Defense Council, this is Luna Station Command. We received your message. Admiral Jake Morrison wants to speak with you directly. Stand by for connection. Veltar felt his heart racing. The humans had responded faster than anyone thought possible. He looked at Weldon, who was staring at the communication panel with wide eyes. Commander Veltar, can you hear me? The new voice was strong and confident. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet. We got your message about the Korthek invasion. How much time do you have? Admiral Morrison, Veltar replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The Korthek fleet will arrive in 3 days. We have no military ships that can fight them. We are asking for your help. There was a pause. Then Admiral Morrison spoke again. Commander, I need you to send us all the information you have about the Korthek forces. Ship numbers, weapons, battle plans if you have them. We are going to help you, but we need to know what we are facing. Veltar could hardly believe what he was hearing. The humans had agreed to help without asking for payment or negotiating terms. They simply said yes. Admiral, are you certain? The Korthek Empire is very powerful. They have conquered many worlds. Commander, Admiral Morrison said, and there was something in his voice that made Veltar feel hopeful for the first time in days. Where I come from, we have a saying. Nobody picks on our friends. You asked for help, and you are going to get it. The cavalry is coming. Veltar did not understand what cavalry meant, but he could hear the determination in the human's voice. Perhaps there was hope after all. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Luna Station, staring at the holographic display showing the Zilani star system. The alien distress call had changed everything. For the first time in human history, another species was asking for military help. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy stone. Sir, we have President Carter on the secure line, announced Lieutenant Sophie Turner, the station's communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as she established the connection to Earth. The large screen flickered to life, showing the Oval Office. President Lisa Carter sat behind her desk, flanked by her top advisors. Her face was serious, but determined. Morrison had worked with her for years and knew that look meant she was ready to make hard decisions. Admiral Morrison, I have been briefed on the situation, President Carter said. Tell me what you think we should do. Morrison activated the tactical display. Madam President, the Zilani are facing complete extinction. The Korthek Empire has 37 warships heading for their homeworld. From what we can tell, each Korthek ship outguns anything the Zilani have by a factor of 10. Defense Secretary Robert Hayes leaned forward. What do we know about these Korthek? Are they a threat to us? Dr. Kevin Walsh has been analyzing the data, Morrison replied. Doctor, please brief the President. Dr. Walsh appeared on a split screen from his laboratory at the Xenobiology Institute. His desk was covered with alien technology samples and star charts. Madam President, The Korthek Empire is what we would call a typical galactic bully. They expand by conquering weaker civilizations and taking their resources. Based on their expansion pattern, they will eventually reach human space. How long before they become our problem? President Carter asked. At their current rate of expansion, maybe 20 years, Dr. Walsh said. But if they take the Zelani homeworld, they gain access to advanced biotechnology that could accelerate their growth significantly. Secretary Hayes frowned. So we are talking about fighting a war to prevent a future war? Not exactly, Morrison said. We are talking about helping people who asked for our help. The strategic benefits are secondary. President Carter stood up and walked to the window overlooking the White House lawn. Morrison could see her thinking through all the possibilities. Finally, she turned back to the screen. Admiral, what would it take to help the Zelani? Morrison had been preparing for this question. I recommend deploying the First Contact Fleet, 3 of our newest ships with full marine support. They use Valkyrie, UE's Thunderbolt, and UE's Iron Hammer. Total crew of 15,000, including ground forces. That is a significant commitment, Secretary Hayes said. What if we lose? Sir, with respect, what if we win? Morrison replied. This could be humanity's introduction to galactic politics. We show up, help the good guys, and establish ourselves as a force for stability in the region. Dr. Walsh nodded enthusiastically. The scientific benefits alone would be enormous. First contact with 2 alien species simultaneously. Access to their technologies. The advancement of human knowledge would be incredible. President Carter returned to her seat. Admiral, I am authorizing Operation First Contact. You have command of the fleet and full discretionary authority to engage the Korthek forces. Bring our people home safely. Yes, Madam President, we will not let you down. The connection ended, and Morrison immediately began issuing orders. Within an hour, Luna Station was buzzing with activity. Ships were being loaded with supplies, Marines were checking their equipment, and engineers were making final preparations. Captain Ben Clark arrived from the U.S. Valkyrie, Morrison's flagship. Clark was a veteran of the Mars conflicts and one of the best ship commanders in the fleet. His weathered face showed concern as he reviewed the mission briefings. Admiral, I have to ask, Clark said. Are we sure about this? We are talking about fighting an unknown enemy in space we have never seen before. Morrison understood the concern. Captain, what choice do we have? These aliens asked for help. If we turn our backs now, what does that say about humanity? It says we are smart enough not to fight other people's wars, Clark replied. But then he smiled. Of course, it also says we are cowards who abandon friends in need. I will have the Valkyrie ready in 6 hours. General Amy Rodriguez arrived next. She commanded the 7th Marine Regiment, the best ground fighters humanity had ever produced. Rodriguez was small but fierce, with eyes that seemed to see through any problem to find a solution. Admiral, my Marines are excited about this mission, she said. They have been training for alien combat scenarios for months. This is their chance to prove that human ground forces can handle anything. General, we do not know what kind of ground fighting we will face, Morrison warned. Rodriguez laughed. Sir, my people have fought in the Amazon jungle, the Sahara Desert, and the ice caves of Europa. I think we can handle whatever these Korthek throw at us. Colonel Ryan Murphy joined the briefing. He was Rodriguez's second in command and the leader of the Marine Special Forces. Murphy was tall and quiet, but Morrison knew he was one of the deadliest fighters in the military. Colonel, what is your assessment? Morrison asked. Sir, based on the intelligence reports, the Korthek fight like most military empires. They rely on overwhelming force and expect enemies to surrender when outnumbered. They have never faced opponents who fight the way humans do. What do you mean? Murphy smiled grimly. Sir, they have never fought an enemy that gets more dangerous when cornered. Most species surrender when defeat seems certain. Humans fight harder. Chief Engineer Danny Scott was the last to arrive. Scott was responsible for keeping the fleet's weapons and engines running. He was a practical man who spoke in simple terms about complex problems. Admiral, all 3 ships are equipped with our latest weapons systems, Scott reported. Plasma cannons, kinetic bombardment missiles, and the new shield breaker rockets. We also have enough spare parts and ammunition for an extended campaign. Morrison looked around the table at his senior officers. These were the people who would help him make first contact with alien civilizations. The responsibility was enormous, but he felt confident in their abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, in 18 hours we depart for the Zilani system. This mission will make history one way or another. Let us make sure it is the right kind of history. As the briefing ended, Morrison remained in the command center. Through the large windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. Soon, he would be farther from home than any human had ever traveled. But somewhere in the darkness, peaceful aliens were waiting for help. Lieutenant Turner approached his desk. Admiral, we are receiving another message from the Zilani. Commander Veltar wants to provide us with tactical information about the Korthak fleet. Put him through, Morrison said. The alien commander appeared on the screen, his green skin pale with worry. Admiral Morrison, thank you for agreeing to help us. I have prepared detailed information about Korthak ships and weapons. Commander, we are honored that you trusted us with your request for help, Morrison replied. We will be there in 3 days. Hold on until then. Veltar nodded. Admiral, I must warn you, the Korthak are very powerful. Many species have tried to fight them and failed. Morrison smiled confidently. Commander, they have never fought humans before. That is about to change. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zelros system. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Valkyrie, watching the tactical display update with new information. What he saw made his jaw clench with anger. The Korthak siege fleet surrounded Zelros Prime like a pack of wolves circling wounded prey. 37 massive warships blocked all escape routes from the planet. Smaller Korthak fighters swarmed around the Zilani defense stations, picking them apart piece by piece. The elegant Zilani ships looked like butterflies fighting against steel hammers. My God, whispered Captain Clark, standing beside Morrison. It is a massacre. Lieutenant Turner worked frantically at her communication station. Admiral, I am receiving distress signals from multiple Zilani vessels. Their defense fleet is being destroyed. Morrison watched a Zilani cruiser explode in a ball of fire. The beautiful organic curves of the alien ship crumpled under Korthak weapons like paper in a flame. His hands formed tight fists. The Korthak were not just conquering the Zilani. They were enjoying it. Sir, incoming transmission from the planet's surface, Turner announced. Commander Veltar appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Morrison could see smoke and flashing lights. The Zilani command center was clearly under attack. Veltar's normally calm demeanor had been replaced by desperate hope. Admiral Morrison, thank the stars you are here, Veltar said, his voice shaking. The Korthak began their attack 6 hours ago. Our defense fleet is almost gone. They are preparing to land ground forces on our cities. Commander, we see the situation, Morrison replied grimly. How many civilians are still in the target zones? 15 million in the capital city alone, Veltar answered. We are evacuating who we can, but our transport ships are being shot down. Morrison turned to his tactical officer. Major Adams, what is your assessment of the Korthak fleet? Major Pete Adams had been studying the enemy ships since they arrived. His face was grim but determined. Sir, the Korthak ships are big and heavily armed, but they are fighting like they expect easy victory. Their formation is sloppy. They are not watching their flanks because they do not think they need to. Overconfident, Captain Clark observed. They have been winning too easily for too long. Morrison nodded. What about their weapons and defenses? Standard. Energy shields and plasma cannons, Adams replied. Powerful but predictable. Sir, they fight like a species that has never faced real opposition. Their tactics are designed to intimidate weaker enemies into surrender. General Rodriguez joined the bridge conference from the U.S. Iron Hammer. Her face appeared on a split screen, and Morrison could see Marines preparing for action behind her. Admiral, my ground reconnaissance teams have been monitoring Korthik landing preparations, Rodriguez reported. Their ground forces are even worse than their navy. They rely completely on overwhelming firepower and terror tactics. They have no experience with enemies who fight back effectively. Colonel Murphy appeared on another screen from his position with the Special Forces. Sir, I have been analyzing Korthik battle recordings from other conquered worlds. They always use the same pattern. Orbital bombardment to break resistance, then mass landings to crush survivors. They expect enemies to surrender when they see superior numbers. Morrison studied the tactical display again. The Korthik fleet was arranged in a loose blockade formation around the planet. They were so confident of victory that they had not even bothered to maintain proper defensive positions. Dr. Brooks, what is your analysis of the alien species? Morrison asked. Dr. Nina Brooks, the fleet's xenobiologist, had been studying both the Zilani and Korthik from her laboratory aboard the UES Thunderbolt. Admiral, this is fascinating from a scientific perspective. The Korthik appear to be a typical predator species. They evolved as hunters and applied that mentality to warfare. They expect prey animals to run or submit when confronted. And the Zilani? Classic prey species evolution, Brooks continued. They developed cooperation and technology to avoid conflict. They literally cannot think like warriors because violence is foreign to their nature. Morrison understood now. The Korthik had been conquering species that were psychologically incapable of effective resistance. They had never faced predators like themselves. They certainly had never faced humans. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Korthik flagship, Turner announced. The main screen switched to show a massive alien figure, the Korthik. Commander was nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and small red eyes. His voice was deep and threatening when he spoke. Unknown vessels, this is war leader Graxtok of the Korthik Empire. You are interfering in Imperial business. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Morrison stepped forward. War leader Graxtok, this is Admiral Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet. We are here at the request of the Zilani government. You are the ones who need to withdraw. Graxtok laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. Humans? I have heard of your pathetic species. You come from a poison world and fight like wild animals. You think your 3 small ships can challenge the might of the Korthik Empire? Why do we not find out? Morrison replied calmly. The Korthik commander's eyes narrowed. You will regret this decision, human. My fleet will crush your ships and take your crews as slaves. Then we will finish exterminating the Zilani. The transmission ended. Morrison turned to his bridge crew. Every face showed the same expression of cold determination. The Korthik had just made a critical mistake. They had threatened to enslave humans and exterminate the Zilani. Now this was personal. Captain Clark, signal the fleet. All ships to battle stations. Yes, sir, Clark replied. Throughout the 3 human ships, alarm bells began to ring. 15,000 humans prepared for humanity's first interstellar war. Commander Veltara's image appeared on the communication screen again. Admiral Morrison, the Korthik commander, is sending landing craft toward our cities. They will begin orbital bombardment in 30 minutes. Morrison's face hardened. Commander, get your people to shelter. We are going to show the Korthik why you do not threaten humans or their friends. Major Adams pulled up the attack plan they had developed during the journey. Sir, Operation Deathworld Storm is ready to execute. All ships report weapons charged and shields at maximum. General Rodriguez, are your Marines ready? Sir, my people have been waiting their whole lives for this fight, Rodriguez replied. The Korthek are about to learn why Earth is classified as a death world. Morrison looked out at the enemy fleet. 37 ships against 3. In any normal military situation, those odds would be impossible. But the Korthek had never fought humans before. They were about to discover that humans did not think like normal military species. All ships. This is Admiral Morrison, he announced over the fleet communication system. Today we make first contact with 2 alien species. One asked for our help. The other threatened to enslave us. I think we all know which one deserves our response. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy. Show them what humans do when innocent people are threatened. The response came back from 15,000 voices. Yes, sir. Morrison turned to Captain Clark. Captain, take us in. Let us introduce the Korthek Empire to human warfare. The 3 human ships accelerated toward the enemy fleet. Behind them, Zelros Prime waited in hope. Ahead of them, the Korthek waited in arrogant confidence. Neither the Zelani nor the Korthek understood what was coming. The humans were about to show the galaxy what happened when you picked a fight with a Deathworld species. The first human attack came without warning. Captain Ben Clark pushed the U.S. Valkyrie into a sharp dive that would have killed most alien species from the gravity force alone. The human crew gritted their teeth and held on as their ship performed. Maneuvers that the Korthek computers said were impossible. Firing plasma cannons, announced Weapons Officer Lisa Park. Bright blue energy beams lanced out from the Valkyrie, striking the nearest Korthek cruiser. The enemy ship's shields flared and collapsed under the concentrated fire. War leader Graxtok watched from his flagship in disbelief. How are they moving like that? No ship can survive those acceleration forces. His tactical officer, a smaller Korthek named Drakthon, studied the sensor readings. War leader, the human ships are pulling 15 times normal gravity. Their crews should be dead. Then how are they still fighting? Graxtok roared. The answer was simple but terrifying to the Korthek. Humans came from a high-gravity death world. What killed other species only made humans slightly uncomfortable. Admiral Morrison's fleet could perform combat maneuvers that broke every rule of space warfare. Commander Alex Thompson piloted the UES Thunderbolt through a debris field created by destroyed Zelani ships. The sharp metal fragments would have shredded most vessels, but Thompson used them as cover while launching surprise attacks on Korthek destroyers. "This is Thunderbolt to all ships," Thompson called over the radio. "I am seeing major weak points in their rear armor. If we can get behind them, we can punch right through their defenses." Captain Julia Harris led her fighter squadron in a daring assault on the Korthek flagship. Her 12 fighters were tiny compared to the massive enemy ship, but they moved like angry wasps around a bear. The Korthek point defense guns could not track targets that fast and agile. "Harris to Valkyrie," she reported while dodging enemy fire. "The command ship has blind spots near the engine section. I can get my fighters in there if you keep them distracted." Admiral Morrison watched the battle from the Valkyrie's bridge. The tactical display showed his 3 ships dancing around. 37 enemy vessels like wolves hunting a herd of cattle. The Korthek were powerful but slow. Their massive ships could not match human speed and creativity. "Major Adams, what is the enemy doing?" Morrison asked. Major Pete Adams studied the sensor readings. "Sir, they are trying to form a defensive circle, but they cannot coordinate fast enough. Every time they start to organize, one of our ships hits them from an unexpected angle." The key to human success was unpredictability. The Korthek fought like most military empires, using standard formations and predictable tactics. Humans fought like the predators they were, using intelligence and adaptability to overcome superior numbers. On the ground, the battle was even more one-sided. Colonel Ryan Murphy led his Special Forces Marines in a series of night raids against Korthik landing sites. The aliens had never faced enemies who could fight in complete darkness. "Bravo team, this is Murphy," the colonel whispered into his radio. "I have eyes on the enemy command post. They have no night vision equipment and no guards watching the rear approach." Sergeant Matt Davis crept through the shadows with his squad. The Korthik soldiers stood around bright lights, making themselves perfect targets. Their heavy armor was designed to stop energy weapons, but human kinetic rifles punched right through it. "Target acquired," Davis whispered, taking the shot. The Korthik commander fell without knowing what hit him. His soldiers panicked and began firing randomly into the darkness. They could not see their enemies, but the humans could see everything through their night vision equipment. General Amy Rodriguez coordinated the ground assault from her command vehicle. "All units, the enemy is breaking down at the company level. They have no experience fighting opponents who use guerrilla tactics." The Korthik had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had always faced conventional armies that fought during daylight hours. They did not know how to respond to enemies who struck from the shadows and disappeared. Before reinforcements could arrive, Dr. Nina Brooks observed the battle from her laboratory and made notes about both alien species. "Admiral, this is fascinating. The Korthik are completely unprepared for asymmetric warfare. They expect enemies to fight fair and honorable battles. What about their psychology?" Morrison asked while watching another Korthik ship explode. "They are showing signs of severe stress," Brooks replied. "Their communication patterns indicate growing panic among the fleet commanders. They cannot understand how inferior numbers are defeating them." War leader Graxtalk was indeed panicking. Half of his fleet was damaged or destroyed. His ground forces were reporting impossible attacks by invisible enemies. Nothing in Korthak military doctrine had prepared him for this kind of warfare. "War leader, we should withdraw," suggested Drakvan. "These humans fight like demons." "They are not natural. No." Graxtalk slammed his fist on the command console. "I will not retreat from 3 small ships. Order all vessels to concentrate fire on the human flagship. We will destroy their leader and break their spirit." It was exactly the wrong decision. The Korthak fleet began moving into a tight formation to focus their weapons on the UE's Valkyrie. This gave the other human ships perfect opportunities to attack from multiple directions. Commander Thompson brought the Thunderbolt around behind the enemy formation. "All weapons fire at will. Target their engine sections." The Korthik ships were bunched together like sitting ducks. Human weapons tore through their rear armor, causing massive explosions that spread from ship to ship. The alien formation collapsed into chaos as damaged vessels collided with each other. Captain Harris took advantage of the confusion to lead her fighters in a direct assault on the flagship's bridge. "This is Harris to all fighters. Follow me. We are going to decapitate their command structure." The small human fighters swept through the Korthik fleet like arrows through cloth. Their plasma cannons and missiles struck critical systems that the aliens had not bothered to protect. Who would waste weapons on such tiny targets? War leader Graxtalk watched his fleet dying around him. "This is impossible. How can so few defeat so many?" His question was answered when a human missile punched through his flagship shields and exploded near the bridge. The massive Korthak ship shook like a leaf in a storm as secondary explosions tore through its hull. Admiral Morrison opened a communication channel to all Korthak ships. "This is Admiral Morrison to all enemy vessels. Your war leader's flagship is crippled. Your fleet is broken. Surrender now and we will allow you to withdraw from this system." The response came from multiple Korthak ships at once. "We surrender. Please stop the attack." The remaining Korthak vessels began powering down their weapons. Some tried to flee. toward the edge of the system. But human fighters herded them back like sheepdogs controlling a flock. Commander Veltar appeared on Morrison's communication screen, tears of joy running down his green face. "Admiral Morrison, you have saved our world." "How can we ever thank you?" Morrison smiled tiredly. "Commander, you already thanked us by trusting us enough to ask for help. That means more than you know." The battle was over, but Morrison knew this was just the beginning. Word of humanity's victory would spread throughout the galaxy. Other species would hear about the Deathworld warriors who came to help peaceful aliens. Some would see humans as heroes. Others would see them as a new threat. General Rodriguez contacted the flagship from the planet's surface. "Admiral, the Korthek ground forces are surrendering en masse. They cannot handle fighting an enemy they cannot see or predict." "Excellent work, General. Begin processing prisoners and securing their equipment." Colonel Murphy added his report. "Sir, we captured intact examples of Korthek weapons and vehicles. Dr. Brooks will want to study them." Morrison nodded. The scientific value of this mission was enormous. Humanity had made contact with 2 alien species and demonstrated their military capabilities on a galactic stage. But most importantly, they had answered the call for help from people who needed them. That was what made humans different from the Korthek Empire. Humans fought to protect others, not to conquer them. The galaxy was about to learn what that difference meant. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Morrison stood in the crystal gardens of Zelros Prime, watching Zelani children play among the glowing plants. The sight filled him with satisfaction. These peaceful beings would grow up free because humans had answered their call for help. War leader Grax Tak knelt before Morrison in the center of the garden, his hands bound with human restraints. The once proud Korthak commander looked broken and confused. His entire worldview had been shattered in a single battle. "I do not understand," Grax Tak said quietly. "My fleet was 10 times larger than yours. We had better weapons and stronger shields. How did you defeat us so easily?" Morrison looked down at the alien prisoner. "You made 2 mistakes, war leader. First, you thought numbers were more important than skill. Second, you underestimated what people will do to protect their friends." "Friends?" Grax Tak's red eyes showed genuine confusion. "The Zelani are not your species. Why would you risk your lives for them?" "Because they asked for help," Morrison replied simply. "That is what good people do." The concept was clearly foreign to the Korthek mindset. Grax Tak shook his massive head. "In the Empire, the strong rule the weak. It has always been this way." "Then your empire has been doing it wrong," Morrison said. "You will have time to think about that during your journey to the prison colonies." Commander Veltar approached through the garden, walking slowly to show respect. The Zelani leader had spent the past 3 days in non-stop meetings with human officials, working out the details of their new alliance. "Admiral Morrison, the transportation ship for the Korthak prisoners is ready to depart," Veltar reported. "Your Colonel Murphy has agreed to escort them to the designated neutral world." Morrison nodded. The defeated Korthak forces would be handed over to the Galactic Council for trial and imprisonment. It was important that other species see humans as protectors of galactic law, not conquerors seeking territory. "What about the damaged Korthak ships?" Morrison asked. "General Rodriguez suggests we leave them as a warning," Veltar replied. "The wrecks floating around our planet will remind everyone what happens to those who threaten peaceful worlds." President Lisa Carter's image appeared on Morrison's portable communication device. She was calling from Earth to get a final report on the mission. "Admiral Morrison, I have been reading the initial reports." "Excellent work out there," President Carter said. "What is the status of our new allies?" Morrison gestured to Commander Veltar, who stepped forward to address the human leader directly. "Madam President, the Zelani people are eternally grateful for your help. We formally request to become protectorate allies of humanity." What exactly does that mean, Commander? President Carter asked. Veltar had clearly prepared for this question. We offer our advanced biotechnology in exchange for human military protection. Our scientists are already working with Dr. Brooks on joint research projects. We believe this partnership will benefit both our species greatly. Dr. Nina Brooks joined the conversation from her temporary laboratory in the Zolani capital city. Madam President, the scientific opportunities here are incredible. The Zolani have developed biological computers, living spacecraft materials, and medical treatments that could revolutionize human healthcare. And in return, we provide military assistance if they are threatened again, President Carter asked. Yes, Madam President, Morrison confirmed. But I believe we are getting the better end of this deal. The Zolani are good people who share our values of peace and cooperation, President Carter smiled. Then I officially approve the alliance treaty. Admiral, when will you be returning to Earth? The UES Iron Hammer and UES Thunderbolt will depart tomorrow with the prisoners and initial technology samples, Morrison replied. I will remain here with the Valkyrie to establish our first diplomatic mission. The communication ended and Morrison walked through the garden with Veltar. The Zolani commander moved with a grace that reminded Morrison of flowing water. Everything about the Zolani culture emphasized harmony and cooperation. Admiral, I have a question that troubles me, Veltar said carefully. The other species in the galaxy fear humans because you come from a death world, but you saved us. How? Do we reconcile these two facts? Morrison stopped beside a fountain that glowed with soft blue light. Commander, being dangerous and being evil are not the same thing. Humans are dangerous because we had to be to survive on our world. But we choose to use that danger to protect others, not to hurt them. The Korthik were also dangerous, but they used their power to conquer and destroy, Veltar observed. Exactly. That is the difference between a predator and a bully, Morrison explained. Predators are dangerous by necessity. Bullies are dangerous by choice. Captain Julia Harris landed her fighter in the nearby spaceport and joined them in the garden. She had been conducting reconnaissance flights around the system to make sure no other Korthak forces were approaching. Admiral, I have interesting news, Harris reported. We are receiving communication requests from 12 different star systems. Word of our victory is spreading fast. What kind of requests? Morrison asked. 7 are from species asking for military assistance against various threats. 3 are from governments wanting to establish trade relations. 2 are from what appear to be mercenary groups offering their services. Morrison frowned. And the last one? A formal protest from something called the Hegemony Council, claiming that humans have violated galactic law by interfering in Korthak imperial affairs. Veltar looked worried. Admiral, the Hegemony Council represents the most powerful civilizations in this region. They may see human intervention as a threat to the balance of power. Let them, Morrison said firmly. We did not come here to conquer anyone. We came to help people who asked for our assistance. If the Hegemony Council has a problem with that, they can discuss it with our diplomats. Dr. Brooks emerged from her laboratory with several Zolani scientists. They were all carrying data tablets and talking excitedly about their research discoveries. Admiral, you need to see this, Dr. Brooks called out. The Zolani have shown us something incredible. She activated a holographic display that showed star charts of the local galactic region. Dozens of systems were marked with different colored symbols. What am I looking at, Doctor? Morrison asked. A map of species that have been conquered by the Korthak Empire over the past 50 years, Dr. Brooks explained. But here is the interesting part. 12 of these species are still alive on prison worlds, being used as slave labor. Morrison felt a cold anger building in his chest. How many people are we talking about? Millions, Veltar said quietly. The Korthak do not exterminate conquered populations immediately. They keep them as workers until they are no longer useful. Captain Harris studied the star chart. Admiral, most of these prison worlds are lightly defended. The Korthak never expected anyone to challenge them. Morrison understood what she was suggesting. The defeat of the Korthak fleet at Zelros Prime was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, millions of beings were waiting in slavery for someone to free them. Dr. Brooks, send this information to Earth immediately, Morrison ordered. President Carter needs to know what we are dealing with. Yes, sir, Brooks replied. Morrison looked up at the alien stars visible through the crystal dome above the garden. Humanity had come to space to explore and learn. They had found a galaxy where the strong preyed upon the weak and where peaceful species lived in constant fear. That was about to change. Commander Veltar, how quickly can your government compile a list of all known Korthak prison facilities? Within days, Admiral. Why do you ask? Morrison smiled grimly. Because humanity just became the galaxy's unofficial police force. And we have a lot of people to rescue. The age of human expansion had begun not through conquest, but through this simple act of helping those who needed it most. As word spread of the Deathworld species that fought for others instead of themselves, the galaxy would never be the same dot in the distance. The Yuz Valkyrie sat in orbit around Zelros Prime like a guardian angel made of steel and fire. Soon, more human ships would join it as humanity took its place among the stars. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they had come to help.